Hello, Don.
All right, we'll start with a quick statement from Coach on the class, and then we'll jump into questions. Burke has a mic over there, and I have this side. Coach?
Well, it's like Christmas for football coaches on National Signing Day. Really excited about this class. You know, last year told you that we signed the fastest class in the nation. We'll see where we end up in the next couple of weeks whenever they come out with some of the stats as far as the times and everything like that. But I do think that one thing that you can see real quick on film is we signed a very athletic class. We signed an explosive class, and we have a lot of really long football players. Two of the tackles are 6'7", two of the defensive ends are 6'5", 6'5.5", and the other one's 6'4". And so I think the one thing that you're going to see with this class, really athletic, really explosive, and really long. And so we're really excited to get these guys here. Our mid-year freshmen and our transfers will move in January 6th. We'll have a team meeting on January 9th, and school starts January 10th. So we'll be rolling early to start and getting ready for football school in February and spring football in March. So with that, I'll open up for any questions.
Go to Jacob, then we'll go to Jared over here. I'm sorry, Justin. Sorry. I'm losing it.
Coach, I feel like we were waiting to talk about these guys forever. Just keeping Micah Hudson committed and finally being able to sign him and get him on campus. I guess, what does it mean to sign the blue chip kind of prospect for your program moving forward?
Yeah, you know, really excited. You know, he committed to us in June. We didn't know. I told all these guys whenever they commit to us, they can do it whenever they want to as far as publicly. Talked about it this morning. You know, he wanted it to, you know, make it public against Oregon, and, you know, and then we didn't have a great game or a great ending to that game. And so, and you could tell he was upset, you know, just emotional because he wanted us to win. And, man, he's part of the family. He's been part of the family for a long time, since the first day that he stepped on campus, you know, to visit. And so it means a lot for a guy. You know, I have a couple guys like him that are ranked really high, that have stuck with us, that have been very vocal. You know, when we're 1-3 and 3-5, and they're still sitting there saying, hey, we're with Texas Tech. We're committed to Texas Tech. And so it means a lot, you know, and he's one of those guys that I'll be shocked if he's not an instant contributor. I mean, we're expecting him to play as a freshman. I don't think you'll ever hear me say we're going to redshirt Micah Hudson. I think from day one, from the time that he's here, he will have a presence on this football team.
The young quarterback that you signed, also Will Hammond, he's been really active in recruiting this class and I guess future classes too. What does he bring on the field and in the locker room in that perspective?
You know, tremendous leader. You know, he's very vocal whenever it comes to, you know, workouts and you know, I think as a freshman he'll earn that, you know, just by the way he works. Yeah, I've been doing this, you know, whether it's been in high school and seeing my guys recruited, or you know, now in college. I've never seen a family as a whole, you know, really recruit for a university. I mean, you know, they went and watched Micah play. They went and watched Cam Dickey play, you know, whenever they were playing on different days. And that meant a lot to that recruiting class. And so excited about him. You know, I think some people look at him as a pro-style guy. We look at him as a dual threat. I mean, I think he had over 1,000 yards rushing this year. And, you know, he's got a big arm. The thing that I love the most seeing him live is his pocket presence. You know, he's very relaxed. He's got great feet in the pocket and, you know, can make all the throws. So he's another guy. He'll be here, you know, mid-year. And, you know, it's going to make a big difference for him starting to learn the offense.
I know we could go one by one with all these high school guys, but I'm just curious with the transfer portal additions that you guys announced on Twitter, and the offensive guards and Scurry and Carter, and then the wide receiver players in Kelly and Douglas. How do those guys play in, and I guess where would they slot in moving forward looking to next year, if you could project that far?
Yeah, you know, a lot of competition in spring because they'll be here in January, you know, and And so, signing one was a big one today with our JUCO signee, Maurice. Whenever we evaluated all the tackles, the 2 tackles that we got were really in the evaluation. Him and Sterling were our top 2 evals. Vinny was our top guard eval, and we added Carter, who is a guy that can play center or guard. Very physical. He grades out really high in the passing game whenever you look at his PFF numbers. And so we're losing those 3 interior guys, the older guys with Denny and Cole and Rusty. And so we felt like we had to identify some older guys in the portal and get them here. And then at receiver, you're talking about whenever you talk about Kelly, when you look at his numbers, he was very productive. He had 900 plus yards, 8 touchdowns. He could play inside receiver. He can play outside receiver. One thing that's really exciting about him too, there'll be a little bit of difference, but he pretty much played in this offense last year, so he knows the offense coming in from day one. And then we've known Caleb for a long time. Whenever he jumped in, we already had relationships with him. Juice did, and then I did, because at one point he was committed at the school that we were at and then ended up going to Florida. So excited. Another long guy. We project him as an outside receiver where Kelly can play inside or outside. So we got to kind of sort that out. But there's going to be some great competition in the spring to see, I think offensively we could be really special.
Hey, Coach, I'm curious about just the calendar with the bowl game being early, obviously the high school signing day today, but then the fast and furious nature of the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Can you just break down how your staff was able to accomplish the win? And then we have you as a top 10 transfer class, top 25 high school recruiting class. Just break all that down.
Yeah, the one thing somebody asked, and I heard him last year, I think commissioner of the SEC was even talking about changing the calendar and pushing it back. And let's don't push it back. If we're going to do anything, let's push it forward. If you're going to come out of a month, come out of December, because January is going to be the same thing. Like for us, January is going to be an easier month because now we're really looking at 2025s and 2026 when we go on the road. So you get to relax a little bit. You're not trying to hold on to a class an extra month that for the most part, our guys were committed in June, so they would have signed in August or September. And so if you're going to push it up with a calendar, but December's crazy. With us playing such an early bowl game, we had bowl practices. We went 6 straight days to where we had multiple transfers on campus doing official visits. We were trying to hold on to our high school commits because we had new staffs coming in trying to, steal them. And that's just the nature of recruiting. And so December, it's crazy. There was not a lot of you didn't get a lot of sleep, especially with, I want to give, one, thanks and what a great job our recruiting staff did whenever you're talking about Blanchard, Nance, and Pittman and Sean Kinney. But not only that, but Kate and Presley, our 2 director of recruiting and director of on-campus recruiting. They're talking to parents constantly about flying them in, when they can fly out. Hey, we're coming to Texas Tech, but then 2 days later, we've got to fly to another school to squeeze in another visit. They're just not bringing people in from home and then sending them back home. They're bringing them in from everywhere all over the country. And so, man, that staff was it was pretty incredible to watch those guys work and get people on campus to get us locked in with the transfers that we did get.
Do you have any spots left for this class? And if so, what positions do you think you'll target?
We're looking right now at really interior defensive line. Not saying that we'll take one because we feel really good about our young guys. Jaden Cofield has really come on. He played in the bowl game. I was really proud the way Trey McAlpin ended the season. Had a good game against Texas, had a good game against Cal. So we feel good about the interior, but we would take one more older guy if we could. So, as we get through signing everybody today, we literally went from one room to the defensive staff room to watch all the defensive tackles that were still out there. And so I could see us having another visit in January. Other than that, we feel good about, the positions that we have on the team.
You mentioned 2025, and I know this changes throughout the year, but do you have an idea of how big of a class, and not necessarily what position, but what you're looking for exactly from that group?
Yeah, we'll go somewhere between 18 and 20 high school guys. I mean, we're about, when you look at our roster, when we first got here, it was really split. There was not a lot of middle, like redshirt sophomores, redshirt juniors. So we're transitioning more and more with the recruiting classes that we've brought in to having more of that, what I call the meat and potatoes of your roster, guys that are their third or fourth year in college that, especially in the O-line and D-line, that should be playing because they've grown. And so we're getting closer, but we'll still, be somewhere between 18 and 20 just because we still have a young roster with signing the class that's here right now that played for us this year and then the class that's coming in. Half your roster is still going to be really young.
Coach, the packet kind of talks a little bit about where you see each of the defensive backs playing, but I guess if you had to project maybe one of them who could maybe play star, I guess who would it be, and how do you kind of evaluate that? Just kind of trying to see who can play that position.
Yeah, it'd be interesting because I kind of see, Oliver as a corner / he possibly could play star just because of his body type. And, he's a guy that's really athletic. I mean, he would have placed at the Big 12 track meet in the triple jump last year. And I think he's got a chance. He won the state track meet last year. He's got a chance to do it again. So he's a guy that's body type. I see more like when you start talking about Peyton and you start talking about Malik, they're more your high safeties, more a free safety, boundary safety. I could see those two guys staying there. I do think that, because we are young in those positions, you could see some freshmen like we saw this year get some playing time. We'll kind of see how they grow through the mid-year guys, and then the guys that will come in June if they can physically develop enough to play. But, I mean, perfect example, Peyton Morgan. I mean, he led the state in interceptions, and he's got just a natural ability. He had almost 20 interceptions at the varsity level, in his career. And so, and had 3 or 4 called back, for different penalties, that didn't count as interceptions. So, he's a guy. And then Malik is a really physical safety. So it's be interesting where they end up.
And then the 3 edge rushers, I guess, what do they all bring maybe that sets them apart from one another? And I guess, what was the idea behind bringing in 3? Because I know you all usually play 2, but I guess what's the idea behind bringing in 3 guys?
Yeah, the hardest thing was saying no to 3 guys like that, that they're so athletic. That if you got 2-1, Charles, I think, is 6'5", Eddie's 6'5.5", and then Chetta is 6'4". Chetta's your true boundary. The other 2 are more Fs that possibly can grow, maybe into a guy that can play inside and outside, kind of like Miles Cole. But when we have the opportunity to sign all 3 of those guys, and that's something, if you look and you think about Texas Tech, traditionally, you have Tyree Wilson. Not many guys that have played in the red and black have looked like Tyree. Not many have looked like Miles Cole. And so when you have a chance to sign 3 guys that look like that in one class, it's hard to say no to guys that can rush the quarterback. And so we wanted to get better there. They're all 3 coming in June. So it'll be interesting of what their summer looks like and, if they could get on the field. But they're also, I think, being coached by the best defensive end outside linebacker coach in the nation. CJIU just continues to produce at that position. I mean, Miles Cole will get drafted this year, and then we'll get Isaac Smith back, but you saw how he progressed late as he grew, and then we all saw what Amir did in the bowl game. And so I think he's one of the best coaches in the country, and so to give him tools like that, but it's hard to say no to long, fast, athletic guys.
Coach, I guess more than half of these guys are coming in January. How much does that accelerate that group and help you guys to, like you mentioned a moment ago, potentially get some of those guys maybe on the field faster?
Yeah, if you look at like if you think about the class that we signed a year ago, and the mid-year guys that played, the majority of them came in on the defensive side of the ball, and like Dylan Spencer was able to play, Chapman Lewis was able to play, Jordan Sanford was able to play, BJ Jordan was able to play, Michael Dingle was able to play, and so those guys were all mid-year. So just picking up the defense, but then turning around and also being in a college program whenever it comes to nutrition and in the weight room makes a big difference. And so these guys that are coming in, they're more on the offense side of the ball, but like it wouldn't shock me, like we already talked about Micah, but it wouldn't shock me if like a Cam Dickey found a role, somewhere, whether it be, playing 4 games, playing some running back and playing on special teams, but a guy that's a mid-year. It's always hard for offensive linemen to come in and play, whenever, even if they are mid-years, it's always hard to do. They've got to be, physically, they've got to be ready, and it's hard to be ready in the offensive line. But, I can see some guys getting on the field, and again, we hope we never get to having to play 3 quarterbacks like we've had the last 2 years, but, Jake Strong, there's no way he would have been ready to play whatsoever. He hadn't have been mid-year. And so Will Hammond coming in mid-year, it's going to help him a bunch.
I know you don't want to play the offensive lineman and not necessarily asking about playing, but how much does that help? I think the majority of your offensive linemen are here early. How much does them getting in that program and getting that weight up and everything help them as well?
Yeah, it's going to be huge. The guy that was the closest to being ready to play as a true freshman was Caden Carr. He's the mid-year. Now we get 3 of the 5 freshmen come in at mid-year, really 4, I guess. And so that's going to help them a lot, because usually those guys, way we recruit offensive line, we're really looking for guys that can grow. We're looking for that length, and we're looking for guys that are probably 270, 280 that are going to grow into their 300-pound bodies or more. We're not looking the other way. Usually when you look at guys that are in high school that are 310, 320, it's usually not great weight, and so now we're having to take it the other way. And as we all know that we've experienced in our lives, it's harder to take weight off than put weight on. And so that's usually how we look at it with those guys. It's going to make a big difference. Like, man, I can't wait for Jacob Ponton to get here. I mean, he's a legit 6'7". I got to go into his school the other day and see him when we were on the road. He's 270 pounds right now, and so I could see him being 290 to 300 pounds by the time we start fall camp, and so that's going to make a big difference.
And since you mentioned Caden Carr, can you kind of give your thoughts on being able to keep Hendricks and Long in town as well?
Yeah, that was huge. That was one thing, I've said it before, but whenever I was in on my interview, that was I showed Kirby and the group 11 Power 5 guys that were from the West Texas area that weren't coming to Texas Tech, and that can't happen. I mean, you're gonna not be able to keep some guys at home, but if they're Power 5 guys and they're in what we consider West Texas, starting with Wichita Falls and working our way down and west, they've got to stay at home. And to get those 2 guys, which are both mid-year guys too, made a big difference, because they've grown up watching Texas Tech and understand what Texas Tech football is all about. And so that was huge to get those guys.
We were with Kaysen yesterday when he signed. I mean, he would be here today if he could. The kid's so excited. But academically, he had to double up on dual transfer credits and all this stuff. Can you just talk about these guys who are doing so good academically to come here athletically, and they're ahead of the game?
Yeah, it makes a big difference, guys that can handle that load, because at different times they decide, to do it. And it puts a lot of stress on them because they're playing football. They're having to do all that. And most of them are taking some college courses or taking the second half of English while they're still doing the first half of English. We try to identify them as soon as possible that want to do that. And that's their choice. We never pressure guys. We want them, to be able to really enjoy their senior year. The great thing with local guys, they still can, it's easy to get to prom, it's easy to walk. All the guys that are mid-years will be able to do that. It's just easier to do it with them being, West Texas guys. But it says a lot how dedicated they are because, it does take a lot, that final, their junior second semester, they're having to take classes in the summer, and then they're usually trying to double up while football is going on. And so it says a lot about those guys, about how dedicated they are to be, early enrollees. And it's one thing that we always talk about, these guys should be able to get into school pretty easy whenever they're already academically qualified and graduated from high school early. And so that was one thing that Quentin Jordan, he's the best in the country. He's over that and works hand in hand with all the counselors and all the parents to get them ready to go.
It's probably tougher today than ever to be a college football coach. How do you handle all the emotions? You love these guys that left for the portal, guys going to the NFL, whatever reason leave, and then all these guys coming in, the highs and lows as a coach.
Yeah, it's going to be interesting. I listen to, and I'm probably everybody in this room because of the work that y'all do, probably all heard Chip Kelly the other day. And for the football and Power 5 at the level we play at, he had a great idea. And I think it would solve a lot of problems if we go in that direction. But it's one of those deals, I kind of always say, it's just kind of the nature of the beast right now. You've got to understand that this is a great opportunity for a lot of young men. And then there's, times to where you feel like that there's other opportunities. And, I want to help our guys. I've texted, the guys that did leave the last couple of days and, hey, where are you at? How can I help? Is there anybody I can call? Because I want everybody to find a home. I want them to, feel good about what they're doing. And then, man, I'm really excited about the guys that we're getting in, man. This is a really special class. Give you an example of all our freshmen that are coming in. Every freshman that we signed, Lance Barlow comes in, our head strength coach, and he goes, hey, because as soon as we can sign them, we start sending out their workouts. So every single guy that we signed today got their workout, for January, February, March, April, and May that weren't mid-years, and then the mid-years got anything that they can do before they get here. And he said, I've never had a class respond back to me that day. They always get back to me, but he said by the time he walked out of the building today, every single one of our freshmen had responded back, thanks, Coach, I got the packet. So it kind of tells you about the group that we just signed, how serious they are about being great and how serious they are and fired up to be Red Raiders.
Coach, talk about the perception change of recruiting to West Texas with 2 back-to-back top 25 school classes. Well,
I think it starts with, y'all have heard me say it. I'll say it again. We don't make excuses. It might help my perspective that I was at Cedar Hill and I had young men go to Ole Miss. I had young men go to USC. I had young men go to Oregon, and they found a way out there. And so where people say it's tough to get to Lubbock, Texas, it's really easy to get to Lubbock, Texas. It's a lot easier to get to Lubbock, Texas than it is to get to Stillwater, to get to Norman, and to get to places like that. And so for me, we started off by not making excuses of not being able to get guys here to see what we have here in West Texas. And then what we have is we have a great university with a great education. And then with what's being done right now in the South End Zone and the Womble football facility, we're showing them something that's the best in the country, that can go up against anybody whenever it comes to facilities. And it's a great place to play whenever you know that you have an opportunity to play in front of a sellout crowd that is just fanatics about their university and this program. And so says a lot about what we're doing. We're going to continue to do it. I'll send out a text later. We've already have some 25 commits, but the 2025 class is on the clock, and we're already starting. I walked into the recruiting room the other day, yesterday, and I was like, hey, we need to look at this, and this. And I was like, what are y'all doing? I thought they were going to be looking at transfers. And Blanche goes, we're looking at the 2025. So, we hadn't even signed the 2024s, and they're already looking at what we need to be doing in the 2025 class. And so says a lot about what we're doing recruiting-wise and as a staff and as a university.
And how does these two classes change the way that Texas Tech will be in the future with all these athletic, all this speed, all these length and height that you've been looking for? How does it change the way Texas Tech will be as a team in the future?
Well, talking about the last two classes and should, because they're top 25 classes, but I don't want to leave out the defensive newcomer of the year and Ben Robertson. I don't want to leave out Joseph Adedire. That first class we signed, it wasn't as big, and some guys have left, but a lot of guys are still here. And so that class started it all. I think there's a good group of that class. Mo Horn is about to take over that DB room. That was the message from me to him after the bowl game, that it's his time. He's kind of an alpha whenever it comes to a leadership role, and he's taken a back seat, because of Rabbit and understanding that. But he's really going to be a vocal leader for us. But these two classes, really three classes coming in, we are going to continue to look different whenever we suit out for game day. You're talking about, you're going to have a bigger, faster, stronger football team. You're going to have a more athletic football team, and that tends to being more explosive on defense, more explosive on special teams, and more explosive on offense. And so I think it's just going to continue to make us a better football team and a better program.
Go ahead, Don.
Joy, do you have a player comp for Micah Hudson? He reminds you of anybody?
God, man, that's a great question. Just from the standpoint of, and I've had some really good receivers that I coached. I coached DeMarcus Lodge, who was a fantastic receiver at Ole Miss. Quincy Adebayo. Charleston Rambo is the all-time single-season leading receiver for the University of Miami. And so I've been around some freaky dudes in high school, and honestly, I've never seen anybody like him. The first time I ever saw him live, the very first play, he ran a post. It was his junior year, and the quarterback threw it up, and it looked like he was just hanging in the air. This is a huge compliment, so I hate to even say it, but it's almost like Jordan-esque. I mean, if y'all watch his highlights, it's almost like he has another gear that he can reach up and go get the football. He's got phenomenal body control. Most great receivers can put their body in position to catch a ball. He's got some CeeDee Lamb-esque type body control. And then, he's got some good thickness. I think, he's definitely coming into the weight room because he plays so many sports in high school. He played basketball in high school. He played soccer in high school. He ran track in high school, so he's probably not been in the weight room as much. So I think he's got a chance to fill out, especially his upper body. And then he's got legitimate speed. He ran in the state track meet last year, and so he's a pretty special guy. He loves football. He absolutely loves football. And he loves the Red Raiders, man. He's two guys that really have stuck out to me in this class whenever it talks to loyalty is Ellis Davis and Micah Hudson. They have been very vocal in them being Red Raiders.
What's the immediate expectation and quick early potential for Maurice Rodriguez, and what was his recruitment like?
Yeah, he visited some really big-time programs. We were lucky enough to get him in the first weekend that we could have somebody in December. He is a big man. I mean, he's 6'5". To give you an idea about his arm length, he has longer arms than Tyree Wilson and Miles Cole, which probably have had the longest arms in this program. So he has got some really long arms. He's a young man that he's kind of new to football. He came to the United States from Jamaica whenever he was in high school. And so he just continues to get better and better. Very serious young man's already graduated with his associate's degree. Great family. And really excited because he is your prototypical left tackle. I think that there's going to be a battle there because, you know, if I look at that left tackle room right now, you know, Sterling has played a lot of left tackle, and so there's going to be a battle there. And then, you know, that's where Dalton Merriman, who is 6'8", you know, 310 pounds right now, is going to he's there. And so the great thing about spring football and where we are roster-wise, there is probably the most competition on the offensive side of the ball that we have had here in this program, like legitimate competition, because you're bringing in some big-time receivers. You know, in the running back room, there's going to be some serious competition to who that number 2 running back's going to be. They're going to get a lot of it because Taj won't get very many live reps at all in spring football. He's carried the ball enough this fall to, you know, be able to take a break in some of those scrimmages and help the young guys out. And then in the O-line, when you're kind of rebuilding that offensive line, you've got some really young, talented guys that are going to grow up. And then you're bringing in 4 older transfers, and then the leader in that room's, you know, Caleb Rogers. And so it's going to be a lot of fun in the spring, so how the competition sorts itself out.
Yeah, a couple more quick ones. Would the severity of Jackson Knott's knee injury, are you expecting him to redshirt next year? And if so, what is your freshman that you announced today the leader to be that guy?
What Mike has told us is that Jackson will be ready for camp. You know, so he'll have surgery right at the 1st of January. They feel like that as far as deep snapping, he'll be back by then, and then by the time we line up against Abilene Christian, then he'll be good to go. But if he's not, we signed the best deep snapper in the country, and that's exciting, you know. And the thing about Ryland is he is a really athletic guy. I mean, he started on defense for his school, you know, and so we're fixed to have a guy that is going to be running down on punt, you know, that has that defensive mindset. The last time I've been around a guy like that, he's playing for the Jacksonville Jaguars. He's already on his 2nd contract, and he actually played linebacker, and we had a linebacker go down at the school that I was at before. And so Ryland reminds me a lot of that. But we feel like Jackson's going to be ready, and if he's not, you know, we've got some guys already on campus that deep snap. Hayden Wigington is a deep snapper for us, but we feel really good about Ryland.
And lastly, is there any? Do you have any plan or desire to add a more experienced transfer guy to the quarterback room? Preferred walk on or JUCO or anything like that? Guy or spring portal guy?
Yeah, we'll look at it. You know, there's one that I can't talk about yet that we feel really good about, and so you know, I think that room definitely needs an older walk-on. You know, and it's a really talented room, but besides Barron, you don't have a lot of snaps in that room, so we'd like to get an older walk-on.
All right, thank y'all.
All right, thank y'all. Good to see y'all.